Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by MMA Veteran Brian Heden. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Brian, yesterday I was, doing some research for this interview, and I Googled your name, and nothing really came up. I mean, some fight records and, maybe some highlights of fights that you've had in the past, but no real articles, no real interviews. Just curious, how much media do you do?
Not very much, to be honest with you. I don't go out there, and try to, press it. I just let them, if somebody wants to do an interview, I'm more than willing to do it, so.
Is the main reason why, maybe you're not out there as much is because you're not fighting in the big shows?
I believe so. It's been frustrating for me. I've been fighting for about 10 years now, and I see guys that I beat, get right back into, big shows. Like, I beat Richard White. His next fight was in Bellator. I beat Steve Banks. A couple fights later, he's in Bellator. It's just, it's real irritating for me. I feel like that, those guys are all big heavyweights. I believe Banks was 6'6". White's probably about 6'2", 6'3", and I'm just, this other heavyweight who's 5'10", 5'11", who cuts to make 265, and I don't think I have that poster boy image to get on those big shows.
Yeah, I was taking a look at your record, and there's been many times where you've had, a great record, and you've been on a win streak, and you've been finishing guys, and so I've looked at your record, and I've been like, okay, well, maybe this could have been a time where he could have been signed to a big show, and he just beat this guy, and then, like you said, that guy got the call and not you. When did the poster boy, when did that thought, maybe you don't have the right look for what the promoters are looking for, when did that kind of factor into the equation? When did you start to think that, hey, maybe that might be the reason why I'm not getting the call?
I believe, it happened a couple of years ago. Especially after beating Banks and seeing him on there. We were all friends eating dinner, and there goes to the channels, and I seen fighting on, and it caught my eye, and I yelled, turn it back, and there it was Banks on TV fighting, and it just made me sick to my stomach, and ever since then, I just believe that, I'm not the big Goliath like they like to see on TV, so.
Your biggest win to date is probably the fight against Sean McCorkle. After that fight, did you say to yourself, okay, now I'm going to get signed, regardless of, maybe I don't look like the poster boy, but you can't deny what I just did. Now is the time for me to get signed. Was that your attitude after that fight?
Definitely. I definitely thought, I'd get a look at by Bellator or whatever, and my manager, I've spoken with them, and they said, you need to get a win streak going. Well, I go and beat McCorkle, and then I win 3 more. And then, I still haven't heard anything, and I thought for sure after going out there and beating that big guy, I was definitely undersized, but I definitely believed I had the skill set to pull out that win. I knew going into that he had no cardio, and that's why I pushed my cardio, especially for every fight, just to push the pace, and get after him and make him chase me. And by, mid-first round, he was huffing and puffing, and his skin was turning purple, and, I just battled through it.
Obviously, in terms of name value, that's the biggest win of your career, but is it the best performance of your career?
I don't think, no, that's not my best performance. I fought a guy over in Chicago, Boban Simic, by far the toughest guy I've ever had to deal with. He was a champion at the time, and for the title fight, the whole round, me and him were just going after it. I take him down, and I'm sitting there, I struck him like 22 times in the face, and he just looked at me and he says, that's all you got? He's smiling, and then, we get in scramble, he'd get away, it was back and forth, and for me, that was my best performance because, even though I was dead tired in the late rounds, I kept pushing myself and kept swinging and getting those takedowns at key times, and, that's a performance I look back at quite a bit.
Now, you've had some high-profile fights get canceled. You were supposed to fight Tim Sylvia, but the fight ended up getting canceled. When the news broke that you weren't going to be fighting Tim Sylvia, the article just said it was canceled for undisclosed reasons. So I'm just curious, why was that fight canceled? Could you clear that up for us?
Yeah, I had the commission down there. We had problems. I've been a pro for going on 10 years now, right. And I haven't fought in a sanctioned state in quite a while, even though I've been sanctioned multiple times. They wanted me to come in there and do every test like as if I was a first-time amateur.
Right.
They wanted me to do that whole thing, all those medicals, all that paperwork and have everything come out of my pocket, and looking at my base pay for that fight and what I'd be paying for medicals, there was no win situation in there for me.
Mm-hmm. And then you also had a fight against Travis Few that was supposed to happen, but the fight ended up getting canceled. Why did that fight not take place?
You know, they never told me.
Really?
All I heard was the whole show got canceled, and never heard anything about it. You know, me and you have been scheduled three or four different times to fight, and it's never happened. The last time I thought for sure it was going to happen was the one that got canceled, and the one before that, he was scheduled to fight me. I was going to defend my title in South Dakota for South Dakota Total Combat, and he was going to do the fight a week after he was supposed to fight, I believe, Mike Kyle at the time. And I told the promoter, I said, hey, you know, I said, that's great, he can take the fight, but what if he gets hurt the week before the fight to fight me? I said, what if he gets hurt and, you know, yada, yada, yada. And from what I heard, I believe he ended up getting knocked out that fight.
Yeah. He got knocked out after the bell, so it ended in a no contest. But yeah, you're right, he did get knocked out.
So yeah, that's when we brought in Sherman Pendergast, I believe. Mm-hmm. And he had somebody close, and he was out of Iowa, and I fought Sherman for XFO and defended my title against him, and I went for a throw I never did before in a fight, and he took advantage, hit me the rear naked, and I had to submit, and that was one fight that was eating me up, and we got the rematch, and pounded him pretty good the first round, and ended him within, I think, 20 seconds of the second round by TKO.
Mm-hmm. Of the fights that you've had scheduled in the past that didn't take place, which is the one that you've wanted the most? Whether it be Tim Sylvia, Travis Few, somebody else, is there a fight out there that was supposed to happen that didn't happen that you really want?
You know, obviously I would have loved to fight with Sylvia. You know, just that big, tall, you know, ex-UFC champion. I would love to get a chance to fight him. You know, he's that kind of that fighter who, you know, bores you with that jab, but he comes with that, you know, quick right that seems to stun everybody. But to me, over all the years, I couldn't see how he was winning those fights in the UFC. He's not really explosive. He's not really exciting. He kind of, I don't know, he just bores the fighter to sleep, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Is Sylvia... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, so that's the fight I definitely wouldn't mind having sometime down the road.
Mm-hmm. Is there a fight out there, whether it's with Tim Sylvia or not with Tim Sylvia, is there a fight out there that you really want? You know, is there somebody on your radar that you look at and you're like, oh, man, that would be a great fight. I'd really like to fight him. I think I could do really well against him. Is there a fight out there? Is there a fighter out there that interests you? Is there a fight out there? If I said to you, hey, you can pick anybody you want to have a fight against, who would it be?
You know, to be honest with you, I'd love to fight Big Country.
Right.
You know, me and him got kind of a similar build, and we're both the kind of guy that you can hit us as hard as you want, and we're not going to go down. We're just going to keep going out there and slugging it out. And I definitely love a fight like that against him. I think the key for victory for me with that fight would be my cardio. You know, I got the same physical physique as him, but, you know, I push my cardio to the limit to the point where I'm in a fight, and later the rounds go, I see my opponent tired. I sit and smile because I know I'm just going to be just fine.
Mm-hmm. I heard a rumor a couple of years back that you were flirting with the idea of dropping to 205. Is this true?
Yeah, I was considering it. I went in, had, you know, the body fat test and everything done by the doctors, and they told me from what they got out of it was that if I got down to 215, 220, I'd be at that, you know, 4 or 5% body fat. Which they've honestly felt that it would be too dangerous for me to cut down there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just curious. I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
So I decided not to, but the more I think about it, I still an idea in the back of my head.
Mm-hmm. Just curious, what kind of led you to believe that was a possibility for you? Because, you know, you fought heavyweight basically your entire career. You've also fought at super heavyweight, which is above 265. So to the outside guy who doesn't know you or just looks at your record, and they would think that, you know, this is impossible for you even to consider this idea. So what kind of led you to believe that there might be a possibility that you could make light heavyweight?
I was over in Michigan training for a few years with Dan Severn and George Urgel's Academy up in Grand Rapids, and I was getting my weight down to about 245, 240, you know, for these fights, for my heavyweight fights, and I just discussed with my trainers, and they felt that if it was possible for me to get down to 205, it'd be such a such a short, stocky 205 pounder that's so explosive with my cardio levels that they felt like I could be a force to be dealt with at that weight class.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, you said that you're still possibly open to going down there. Do you think that maybe that's the ticket to get you to a big show? Because if you drop to 205, I think you're 6 foot tall, so 6 foot 205, that's like a lot of 205 pounders. That's basically their size. Is that maybe a possibility to get you into a big show?
It's very possible, but, I honestly think, the more fights I do, the more wins I rack up. Eventually, I'm going to have to get looked at by one of them. It's just got to get those fights against those top contenders who are right on the borderline of getting into the UFC or whatnot, and I just can't get them to accept.
Mm-hmm. Where do you train at now, and who are some of the people that you work with?
Right now, after moving back from Michigan, I'm moved back to my hometown, Detroit Lakes, and I work with Chris Holt. He's my striking coach. And I work with Master Lucas. He knows the aspects of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's more of a Taekwondo school, which, obviously I feel like that's not that much of a great presence in MMA, but,
right.
It's good to learn a new style, learn a new discipline, but also working the things of MMA as well.
I'm just curious, you have this fight coming up for Dakota FC. Are you their champion right now? Are you their belt holder?
No, I'm not.
Oh.
The heavyweight title's vacant right now. I've been after this title since the first time I fought for him was quite a few years ago. But at the time, the champion was Chris Tuscher.
Yeah.
He was a training partner of mine, we're good friends, and, I never pursued it. Then he went on to the UFC, and now he ended up getting cut. I believe he's not fighting no longer, and it's been vacant. And now they're finally going to crown a new champion, so...
Mm-hmm. So this fight is for the vacant title, or is it like a number one contenders fight? Could you explain that?
It's vacant.
Oh, okay.
It's for the heavyweight title now. So.
Oh, I see. Now you're going to be fighting Tim Johnson. How much do you know about him?
I don't know a whole heck of a lot. I mean, he just kind of started taking notice of him a year ago. I got offered to fight him. I got offered to fight him twice, but each time we were supposed to fight, he ended up having to do guard duty or something else, and the fight never happened. And he fights on those local shows up in Fargo, and when I'm not fighting, I go up there and I obviously, go watch him, and I've been keeping an eye on him. And from what I see, he's a big guy. He's about 6'3", he cuts out 265, but there's nothing special about him. You strike with him, he kind of winces. His striking is a little par in my opinion, but he's a good wrestler that can take you down and control you. But once he gets on top of you, he doesn't do anything. He might throw a punch or an elbow here, and he's just too focused on those arm triangles or those kimuras or any kind of arm lock he can get his hands on.
How do you see this one ending?
Right now, I couldn't tell you. I know if he decides to stand up with me, it's going to be a big mistake on his part. But also, I know he's going to be going in for the takedown constantly, and once he realizes he can't take me down, I think that you're going to see panic in his eyes, because he's used to taking guys down, used to controlling them. And from what I heard around the loop, that he's telling people about how he's going to take me down, submit me, how I've never had a big heavyweight on top of me who submitted me, and the people that he told that to, they kind of smiled and chuckled in his face, and he said, why do you think he hasn't been taken down? I can maybe think of 6-7 times I've been taken down in my 40 fights. And so I don't know. I'm inviting him to try to do his little duck and bull rush trip takedown on me, because I got a few treats waiting for him when he tries that.
Brian, last question. Just curious, your nickname. You don't have one. Just curious as to why.
I guess, I've never really thought about it. I like to just be myself, Brian Heden. I don't need a big flashy name to have myself recognized or, anything stupid like that. I don't need to call myself the Bulldog or the Pit Bull or anything like that. I just like to be me.
Mm-hmm. You never had a nickname growing up? Maybe your parents gave you, grandparents gave you, friends gave you, nothing ever stuck?
My friends friends used to call me Lunchbox. That's a name I definitely wouldn't want to use out there in the fight.
Yeah.
So I guess I got that obviously because I was a bigger guy. I didn't steal any kids' lunches by any means, but that name kind of stuck to me over the years.
Oh, I see. Well, Brian, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, so I'd just thank my sponsor, Scrap Soldier, that out of San Diego. They help me out with anything I need. Global Solutions, Charles Turcotte Constructions, Zorba's, Big John's Gym, Team Regulators, Joe Irby Law Firm. You know, I like to thank all those guys. They always give me a helping hand when I have medicals and stuff I have to get taken care of, and they give me what I need to make sure everything's up to par. And for the fans who can make this fight, I think they're going to see, you know, it's hard to say what they're going to see. Something big's going to happen. It's going to happen early. And I believe by the end of it, you're going to see my hand raised up with that title around my waist.
Brian, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck January 11th at Dakota FC Winter Brawl 2014 against Tim Johnson.
All right, thank you.